What's up, college football fans, quarterback fans? Welcome to another QB Spotlight episode. As always, thank you for tuning in. This is the place we talk all things quarterback, just a big quarterback hub. And today we're talking about Shedeur Sanders, Colorado quarterback, and specifically we're going to touch on the subject of what it is like for a quarterback to move up a level. With Shedeur going from the FCS level to the Pac-12, we want to talk about kind of what that is like. And so to help do that, I brought my guy Shaun Rutherford on, who is going to have like a unique, actually perfect perspective, because whenever he started at Texas State, he was a quarterback who went up from the FCS to the FBS level. So we're going to dive into, what that is like as a quarterback, and, what Shedeur Sanders can potentially expect. What are some factors that may play a role that don't have any, factor at all. But Shaun, before we dive into Shedeur Sanders and, just him in general, can you maybe give your experience about, the differences from the FCS to FBS level whenever you were playing, and maybe some of the challenges, but then some of the things that weren't really that big of a deal that maybe got overblown? If we maybe let's touch on your experience first and dive into some Shedeur Sanders, just to give everyone some context of things.
Yeah, for sure. So, transition, when I first came to Texas State, we were independent. So, at the FCS level, competition was pretty solid. But as we know, jumping from one extreme to the next is a pretty big difference. But as far as the FCS level, you're still going to see guys. But you may have one good DB, one receiver, maybe one or two good old linemen, versus when you get up to the FBS level, seeing multiple guys at each position. So that's probably one of the things that I saw the most in my time with Texas State. Like, we had some guys that were good for FCS, but were kind of out of place going to the FBS level. And I don't want to knock any of my teammates from when I was at Texas State, but we did have some guys that were fitting for FCS, but it was a little bit tougher for them going into the FBS. So as far as the size, so for instance, our first two games coming out my junior year, we played Texas Tech and Wyoming, and the size factor was a big difference. So Texas Tech's offensive line may have averaged like 6'4", 6'5", probably 300 across the board, versus our starting center was a freshman, and he might have been 6'2", maybe 280. So that's one of the biggest differences. Pretty much the guys up front, the front seven. As you get into the receiver secondary, it may not be as big of a difference, but the biggest thing is probably just the upfront guys.
Yeah. Because you started your junior and senior year at Texas State, correct? And
Right.
So whenever y'all went to play, did you have a better year the year you were playing against tougher competition, or was it the year before?
Statistically, it was better my senior year when we went up to FBS. Still did some pretty good things at the FCS level, but I feel like once we took that step up, my play did get a little bit better.
So to me, because I feel like there's so many factors when you transfer or when you go up a level, and to me, the fact that even though you had a good year your junior year, you said that your senior year you're probably better and you were playing against better competition. So right, that the even though you're going against better competition, you had more experience, right? And it wasn't like the guys you were playing like we talked about this before, right? Like quarterbacks that don't get recruited at the Power 5 level. Sometimes, there's a big difference. Other times, just not getting, looked at properly, right? So, speak on a little bit. Was there a shock whenever, just from the quarterback position, was there a shock whenever, because y'all played your senior year, y'all had, U of H, Texas Tech, Nevada, New Mexico, those type of schools that you had to play against. Was there a shock from speed, or a shock oh man, throws are a lot tougher to make, or did it seem just like a normal transition, if that makes sense for you?
I think my coming to moment as far as the FBS was the Texas Tech game. For me, we had planned so much on U of H. I watched film heavy in the room, so the game moved so much slower to me that U of H game, everything was easy. Everything that I thought was going to be there was there. And then game 2, we played Texas Tech, and I believe that year of 2012, Texas Tech might have had the number 1 defense in the first 7 weeks. So front around, their DBs were moving. So as far as the run plays and the gaps just closing super quick, that was a big factor with them. Secondary, the windows closed fast, or if we did take a 3-step drop, like, you better have that ball out by the time you get to it. It was no, all right, first read there, get to your second or third. Like, it was like, all right, first maybe get to your second read. If that's not there, you better take off and run. So that was really like a moment where I was like, okay, like I get what FBS ball is now.
So what was speed like? You hear speed going from high school to college NFL. Was the speed of everything probably the difference when you're like having to read the defenses? Like when you're dropping back and you say, "Oh man, like that hole closed quick." Like when you're reading the defense.
Like even if we went back and watched game tape now, even like the routes that I saw, like for me, if I saw one-on-one matchups, I'd get it down. So it was some times to where I would take a go ball or I would take a slant, but the gaps that those DBs were closed and the time that the ball would be in the air or the time I wanted to look at it, like it just closed so quick. So that was one of the things. And that's like I was saying, like for them, I feel like they had 3 DBs that were solid. Like their whole front 4 was solid. I want to say out of that defense, they might have had like 7 guys go to the NFL off that starting defense that year. So the game really moved quick and was like a whole different level from FCS.
Man, that's a good, a unique perspective that you had. Did you feel like towards the end of the season, was there a big adjustment period? Because I went back and looked at y'all stats your senior year, and it seemed like besides the Tech game and maybe one other game, maybe Utah State, every game was pretty close. Even though I think y'all went 4-8, but even the losses were within 2 touchdowns for the most part. So did you feel like after that Tech game, like things slowed down a little bit and you adjusted to it with the experience, or what was your kind of thought process there?
I think it helped out. Our team was fairly young as well going into FBS, so I think a lot of the guys coming out for pregame, seeing those offensive line, defensive line guys standing at like 6'4" to 6'6", 6'7", was like, oh, like we really have to play these guys versus coming from U of H, they weren't as big and as fast. But after the Tech game, we kind of got our feet back underneath us playing SFA. That was a solid game for us. But most people don't know, like the WAC at the time, that was a tough conference. Like the WAC was a solid conference at the time with the Nevadas, the Utah State, San Angelo State, not San Angelo, excuse me, San Diego.
San Diego, yeah.
But there were some teams in that conference that each week going in, it's going to be a dogfight. So just knowing that each week, but to get back to what you asked, like I think as time went on, we did kind of gel and understand, okay, like we can kind of hang in with this. We can go toe-to-toe with some of the best teams in the WAC.
Did you feel, and we're going to transition to Shedeur here kind of after this question, but did you feel, because obviously you were a dual threat guy, you were looking to pass, but you could run if you need to. Was there any difference like getting accustomed to the FBS level from a running standpoint whenever you were taking off and running, whether it's scrambling or design run, or is it mainly from a passing standpoint, the DB's moving and kind of the holes closing?
So the biggest thing for me running, and it's funny because we had a triple option offense, for out of the shotgun. But our coach, I used to run probably almost 15 to 20 times a game, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, dude, I'm trying to pass the ball. So I think a lot of the times I tried to stay in the pocket a little bit longer because I didn't really want to be labeled a dual threat, just because that was kind of the thing with the black quarterbacks. Like all black quarterbacks want to run first before they throw. So that was kind of my thing. Pretty much trying to silence the doubters and the critics of all black quarterbacks do is want to run. But in reality, like I wanted to pass. And even playing flag football now, like a lot of people laugh at me because I want to throw the ball. Like I'm not taking off running. I don't want to catch the kicks. But
yeah, no, that's good, and we that's a good topic that, man, we could probably spend a whole podcast talking about that topic itself. But for just like the kind of transition to that level when you were running, you probably saw more of a difference. Like you probably saw more of the speed when you were passing, right, compared to like running, just because like running's so instinctful and like you're not like really judging these guys fast, you're just trying not to get hit. So is that kind of fair? Like the passing was more of a, just because the guys are moving so fast, and when you're taking off and running,
so like I mentioned earlier, like a lot of the gaps close a lot quicker just because most guys, like, and again, once you get up from FCS to FBS level, the coaching difference plays a factor too. So you may have a coach that's really honed on getting technique in versus just kind of coaching X's and O's. So again, with Texas Tech, you can see a lot of those guys shedding blockers, getting off the blocks and getting the gaps closed or really staying to their assignment. So I think that's a big factor at the FBS level as well. Like guys really doing their job. Like what your job is, make sure you do that.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about the coaching difference going up in the levels. But yeah, let's transition with Shedeur. I think that was a really good intro. Just I want everyone to get like the context of as a quarterback what it was like to transition to higher competition. So with Shedeur, right, Colorado is a unique position just because, they got Dean at coach, and I've said this before, like he's not someone I would ever bet against, right? And so I'm saying Colorado is going to win the Pac-12 by any means, but he's just not someone I would ever bet against. And with that said, their situation, they brought in so many transfers, right? So they have a lot of D1 guys that are playing D1 guys. So from Shedeur Sanders, he's around like D1 players around him, or big time D1 players are around him. So what do you think is there going to be an adjustment going up to level, I guess, first and foremost? And if there is, what would that kind of, what would the difference be for him? Like what would be the biggest factor that he would have to adjust to going up from FCS to Pac-12 level?
I think it'll be the same thing as I mentioned about us going from FCS to FBS, just as far as like playing better competition each week. Especially being in the Pac-12, you're going to see a lot more points being scored. So week in and week out, he's going to have to be on his A game, play really well. But just the speed of the game, the front seven and the DBs in the back end moving faster, again, gaps closing quicker, things like that. But, I mean, Shedeur has all the intangibles to be really good. He has the size, he can run, arm strong. I don't think it's going to be too big of a transition for him just because they've done a really well job of recruiting. You got guys like Travis Hunter on the outside that can go blow the top off or catch a 5-yard screen or a 5-yard hitch and take it to the crib whenever he touches the ball. So just being surrounded by those type of playmakers, I think that'll make his job a lot easier. Just do your part, get the ball in your athlete's hands and let them do the work.
Right. No, I think that's I would agree with that. And something like whenever people are bringing it up the competition level, like Shedeur obviously knows that he's going up in competition. It's not like a surprise to him. You know what I mean? Like he's obviously like being prepared for that. And
I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
I think one of the biggest things as a quarterback, and I think we've talked about this before, like make everybody play to your level. So if I have the expectations I have of myself, I need everybody else to rise up to the occasion. So even at an FCS level, if I'm playing like I'm at the FBS or I'm playing like I'm ready to be NFL draft prospect, like my game is up here. Like I'm not playing my game here because I'm at FCS, NAIA, D2, whatever it may be. And I feel like with Shedeur, especially with Deion Sanders being your dad, like it's no half stepping. Like all that bullshit is out the door. Like I need you to be on your A game every single day, whether we're at practice, whether you're going against the third team, or it's good on good with the first team versus first team. So I think he carries himself with a different type of swag and confidence to where no matter where you put him, you can throw him at Alabama. I think he's still going to carry himself in a manner to where he's going to go in and compete and try to win games.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And so they open up with TCU, Nebraska, and then I think they start their and maybe Colorado State or something. But then they start their Pac-12 play. Do you think there's going to be? Do you think there'll be an adjustment period to the speed of the game, or do you think like you said, like maybe there's adjustment period, but it's not something that's going to have like a necessarily like a negative effect? It's like you adjust to it and you keep balling.
I think the biggest adjustment may be for the guys around him. So by the guys around him adjusting, that may slow his game down just a tad. So if you've got guys that have come in and aren't really used to the speed of the game as well, so if I'm throwing you a 10 to 12-yard out route, but the DB has got his hands on you, you can't really get off of it. So now that's kind of slowing up my timing. So now if I go to my second read, and it may be the same thing. If I got a guy running the seam, the dig for Tampa, if I'm trying to check my seam, get back to my dig, and nobody's open, that may slow his game down just a tad. But as far as him, I don't think the adjustment is going to be that bad. And then with the guys Deion brought in at Colorado, I mean, you're seeing that type of stuff every day going good.
Right.
Good, so.
That's a good point. And something else that we alluded to at the beginning, just about using you as an example, is he's got plenty of experience, even if it is at the FCS level. Like you had plenty of experience before y'all went up to FBS, and you had an even better year than at the FCS, and you're playing tougher competition, right? So it's also like the experience factor, one, but then like he's a competitor, and so like it's not like he's afraid to play better competitions. What he wants to, like you were probably stoked, like hell yeah, let's go play these guys. Like I know we're underdogs by whatever, but like I'm ready to rock and roll. So I think like that elevates too, and like you mentioned, he has talent around him, and then just the coaching staff in general putting him in position to succeed, which will put others in position to succeed. It's definitely going to be a fun team to watch. They're getting a ton of headlines. So like expectations for Shedeur, let's kind of get into. This is something I talked about on a Colorado podcast a few days ago, but you have like these crazy expectations of like fans who are like, okay, he's 50 TDs, 2 picks, winning the Heisman, like killing Caleb Williams, all that type of stuff. Then you have fans who are like at the other end of the spectrum who are like, they're going to go 0-12. He's not going to throw any TDs, like that type of stuff, right? So what are your just expectations for Shedeur going in? The Pac-12 probably has, if we're like to speak the top of our head, they probably have the best like top tier quarterback talent out of any conference, right? Because you got Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Cam Rising, Cam Ward. Like that's a good top 5, right? So what are your expectations for Shedeur, how he's going to play, where he's going to kind of fall in that tier of quarterbacks in the Pac-12, and just kind of how you envision the season unfolding for Shedeur?
So I kind of have 2 different expectations for him, just kind of depending on if they're 50-50 or 60-40 offense versus 80-20 or 70-30. So if they're more balanced to where they have a good running back, I see him at like 2,000 yards passing, 30-plus TDs. I don't see him throwing more than 5 picks.
Yep.
Now, if they're more pass happy and they go 70-30, 80-20, now I see him 3,500 yards passing, close to 50 touchdowns, and then same thing, no more than 5 picks. I honestly don't see him throwing more than 5 picks. Just watching his tape from the last 2 years, he does a good job of taking care of the ball. Moves well in the pocket, throws the ball away when he needs to. So outside of that, I see them going possibly 7-5.
Okay, I like that. Yeah,
that's a tough conference.
Yeah.
And then coming out those first 3 games, those aren't sleepers.
Right.
TCU is going to be a good one. Just their quarterback situation, but Nebraska is going to be solid. And then I think you said Colorado State. So
I think it's them. Yeah.
All 3 of those games are pretty tough to come out the gate. And then, like you said, once you get in the conference, you're going up against some other draft picks at quarterback.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be an interesting year for them.
Yeah, no, those are good, solid kind of predictions there. And I think it's Colorado State. Colorado fans, don't kill us if we're wrong. We don't have the schedule in front of us, but I'm pretty sure it is Colorado State week 3. But regardless, you're right. It's a tough start right off the bat. And yeah, I think with Shedeur, I think it was interesting how you put it. It depends on the offense and depends on what they decide to kind of make their identity, essentially. I also think, I talked about this the other day, I think Shedeur is going to run a bit more in this offense because of the offense that they brought in with Shaun Lewis. But then also I think doing that some is just another threat because he passes so well, right? Defenses are trying to defend him passing. They're going to be dropping back, trying to defend him passing. So I think there might be some more running lanes there for him, which will force the defense to cave in. And I like the point you brought about the interceptions because I think he has like 70 TDs, like 14 picks, like in his entire career. So it's like a 5-to-1 TD to interception ratio. He's always done a good job taking care of the football. And a few other quick things, I'll get you out of here, Shaun. I know you're busy. A few other quick things with Shedeur that I think transfer over well to any level because you have, like you said, speed, get adjusted to it, but you feel confident that, hey, it's not going to be like a negative adjustment by any means. But there's a few things I think he does well that can transfer to any level of football, and that's processing the defense, like seeing what the defense is doing pre-snap, and then, whatever they do post-snap, you're able to adjust to it, right? And you use this example last time you were on. You were talking about quarterbacks always look at the safeties, right? And then you kind of tell what defense can potentially be doing. But in Shedeur's case, what I think he does so well is, like, say if you have 2 up top safeties, snap the ball, 1 safety rolls down, he's able to adjust to now say it could be cover 2, could be cover 4, but now it could be cover 1 or cover 3 or something like that because they got 1 up top safety. So I think that the fact that he can process defenses well. I think he's got a sharp football IQ. I think regardless what division you play at, that can transfer to a higher that transfers to higher competition. Would you agree with that? Or maybe talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to last time we were on the pod. That's one of the biggest things that separate guys. And I know we talked about that, separating like the 2 stars from the 4 stars and 5 stars. Just having the intellect to kind of understand the game, staying in the film room, knowing the plays, knowing the adjustments to what the guys do, and essentially just being another coach on the field. So there was times our coach would call a bad play, and he would expect me to check out of it and get out of it. And I'm like, I already got a million things to do, but as a quarterback, you're again essentially the coach on the field. So it's your job to get out of certain situations and understand, all right, if they do this, this is a bad play for us. So just understanding those things. And like you said, with him, I think he understands the game really well. And again, being Deion's son, like that's almost like a must for you to be able to do. But I think he's had a lot of good coaching around him over the years. So I mean, I think at any level it's gonna translate for him. But it'll be a big test for him.
Do you have you seen him throw in person at all? Have you been around him at all? Or?
I saw him throw 2000, it's either 18 or 19. He was out in Austin. With Charles, so I got to see him. It's been a while, but I mean, even back then, got to see him spin it, and then we played against him in 7-on-7. So.
Okay, so you've seen him throw in person. He can spin it, huh? Obviously, yeah. Awesome, man. Well, man, Shaun, thanks so much for coming on, dude. Real quick, tell everyone where they can find you. And again, you'll be on throughout the season breaking stuff down, but tell everyone they can find you on Instagram and Twitter and all that great stuff. Shaun runs a great 7-on-7 program with our guy Bam, and then he does quarterback training in the area of some high-level quarterbacks. So it was really cool to have his insight come on and talk about just seeing live bullets at multiple levels and kind of what that meant. So go ahead and just tell everyone where they can find you. Again, thanks for coming on, Shaun.
No, absolutely. On Instagram, Shaun, SHAUN _ Rutherford, RUTHERFORD _ behind the last name, and then the business page for quarterbacks at Tier 1 QB. And then since you said shout out Bam, it is Colorado State Game 3. So
let's go. Yeah. He'll be tuned in for that one, I'm sure.
Yeah, you better be.
Hey, we got to have him come on and talk about how to guard quarterbacks. I need to have both of y'all on and come and just do X's and O's, how you would attack Bam, how Bam would attack you. That'd be dope. We'll do that.
I would have tried him. That'll get him on here. Bam, I would have tried you every other play.
That's dope. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Shaun. Guys, if you like this type of content, we do quarterback content on a weekly basis, so feel free to please subscribe, like all that YouTube podcast stuff. This is kind of a long episode, so we'll put on the podcast too. But yeah, subscribe, like all that stuff. Shaun, thanks for coming again. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Sure, always good, my guy. Appreciate you.